please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Where Are They Now? Today we're going to be taking a look at the year of 2024 for the YouTuber, streamer, Georgenotfound, a Minecraft player who was effectively destroyed within the public space by an accusation that had changed multiple times, story-wise, by an individual who has since essentially erased themselves from the internet. I made 2 videos on this subject. We're going to go through those first before we catch up with what has happened since. There has been of late a lot of controversy again concerning the Minecraft YouTubers and streamers. This happens every so often. They get accused of being weird and creepy. Many of them get cancelled and disappear into irrelevancy, and a new generation finds its way to the front a few years later. It is with that in mind we go to the current generation, many of whom are under the microscope.
Like, why are we leaking this? Like, you are lucky. You're lucky that that was the only thing that happened. This is such a lucky lesson learned. Like, okay, I was underage, drinking. I was already pretty dumb. Probably shouldn't go back to the hotel rooms with guys alone. Some guy kind of like felt me up a little bit, but nothing happened and then I left. That is a lucky scenario.
On March the 9th, Twitch streamer Katie Bugs alleged on her broadcast that she had been sexually assaulted by a significantly older and popular content creator at the beginning of the summer of 2023.
Hi chat, I wanted to talk to you guys about something today. Last year, at the beginning of summer, I was assaulted by a significantly older and popular content creator.
Initially, she did not name the person that she claims had done this to her. She claimed that while intoxicated by the creator who was 8 years older than her ABUSER disguised their non-consensual touching by asking if she was ticklish. This was a big clue. A number of people pointed out that Georgenotfound, a Minecraft streamer and YouTuber, was known for having a weird tickling kink, so all attention fell on George. George has a sizable following on YouTube, but doesn't really get much in the way of views on the platform, if you ignore the more recent videos where he has responded to the allegations. George initially responded to the allegations by saying, "I will be doing a very serious stream later today. This post is just to make clear, I am gathering all the information and evidence to share. I have never and would never break someone's boundaries or ASSAULT anyone." Bugs did not appreciate this at all, Katie Bugs that is, and on her Twitter posted a statement. "We are waiting. Pull whatever you can. I also have screen recorded everything. I planned on using it to support my case if needed, but please share it on my behalf if you like, because we both know what happened. That's why I can sleep at night without scrambling for screenshots to try and twist. That's why you're scared, because me and every other creator know the truth, and you do too. That's something you have to live with. Yes, I was naive, but I have room to change, to grow up. 8 years exactly, and when I'm your age, I'll be 10 times the person you are, and you will always be the 27-year-old, still acting like a child. I'm not scared of you anymore. I've been waiting so long to say this, but you are an effing coward. Goodbye for now." At this point, many people were on Katie Bugs' side. George was flayed, sautéed, to the point many of George's tweets don't exist anymore, although I do believe a number of them were archived at least. On March the 11th, Georgenotfound released a full response to the allegations. This was a 33-minute Twitch stream, re-uploaded to YouTube as well. He pointed out that the streamer and her group had already been at VidCon, or an after party at it, known for its strict security, and claimed that she and her friends were wearing over 21 wristbands. Now in this there is a slight error, not all of them were, but there was a mislead on age, that is true, and in this Katie Bugs had been drinking as well under the age, legal age that is. I believe this was pointed out by Nick Diorio. In the case of this serious conversation, the Georgenotfound streams YouTube channel, it's mostly well received, 75 to 25, and the comments, many point out discrepancies. But continuing with the story, he did acknowledge that Katie did have her age in her Instagram bio, although he did not see it at the time. That is what he claims. Katie alleged she answered a question as part of a drinking game where she stated she was 18 and still a virgin. However, George explained he couldn't recall, quote, I just don't remember this happening. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I did not hear it happen. We're not all just sitting down, it's a chaotic environment. I could have been getting a drink. I could have been talking to someone else. I did not know what was said. Katie explained that she and her friends were encouraged to drink, which George believes is phrased in a way to make out that he and his friends were preying on them. George does admit he placed his hand on her waist under her shirt, pointing out this was not sudden and they had gradually gotten more intimate throughout the night, and that the furthest they went was George touching the streamer under her shirt while she was still engaging with him the entire time by smiling, laughing and even play fighting. Katie Bugs released a full statement to Twitter, and no, she was not happy. This is a very lengthy response because she put out many screenshots and statements, and that's where we're going to go next. 1. He never got verbal confirmation from me. 2. Chose to move to a sexual act on the couch where everyone was hanging out without asking. I don't know how those two facts coexist. How can I consent when there was no question? How can I consent when drunk? I prepared proof on the idea he wouldn't admit to it, that he would deny touching me or being there, but he admitted it, that I was drunk and he touched me in front of everyone, that I never said yes, nor did he ask. Frankly, I think it's effing insane. If you still need more after hearing him admit those two simple facts, then nothing I can say is going to change your mind. But here it is. Addressing the stream. As for the iMessages he showed outside of Insta DMs, all proof was him showing a group chat he wasn't even in, showing messages from my friends, which isn't me. The only message showing a response from me was when we asked about the drinking game we played. That was after we played it the first night. Why I went back? Because my friends want to, and I went with them everywhere they went that trip. Second night, another reason I was willing to go back was I heard of a different creator who was in the room I wanted to meet, but when I found out they had left an hour earlier, I was already in the Uber. Insta DMs. This goes on for a while. Sorry folks. But for the sake of transparency, you need to see all of this. As you can see, the messages happened in June of 2023, when she was claiming she was freshly 18. Her birthday is in January, so not freshly 18 in the slightest, but that's just one little inconsistency and we're not going to latch onto it too much. In those DMs, you're just chatting, as people can see. Underneath that you say, I felt lucky to be talking to a verified account, someone famous, someone I'd followed and watched for a while. To the next page. Again, like he said, at one point he asked for my snap, which he did, but we did not Snapchat much at all because I don't use Snapchat. I haven't since around middle school. The most that happened were a few pictures of him with a quesadilla that he sent me, and I resorted back to DMs, which didn't last long because you'd stopped interacting around Paris TwitchCon. She walked him to an elevator, we left at the same time. The unmentioned friend. There was a man who was there that I left out. He wasn't there for long, he left early. We cuddled. A lot of the touch was initiated by him, probably not realizing it. I mean, he was literally spooning me from my left as I faced Ghosty to my right. A lot of the cuddling he may have felt was personal, but was just me being drunk. Everyone on the couch was doing the same thing, all drunk close together, but I get it, I was drunk. I didn't think cuddling automatically meant it was to turn sexual. I don't know if it was an invitation. I wasn't going to push him off in front of everyone. He took it a step further, in front of everyone, because he assumed things and assumed that he had the right. As a shy person, I could not speak up in front of him and everyone else, let alone say yes. Even if you wanted to take a step forward sexually, why do it in the open? If you're cautious about consent, why not ask? That's usually the first step, and more importantly, why does everything have to get taken a step further? And may I reiterate that I was drunk. She could have moved. Yes, I got up and sat in the same spot, getting up to drink more. Mentally, I believe in a room on a sofa with people on it, you just sit back where you were when you get up. She stayed when her friends left. I didn't make the conscious decision to choose to stay. My friend left throwing up in her hand and I didn't know. So the last 3 points, may I remind you, are not an invitation to be sexual or that I wanted it, and if he thought I did, he could have asked. Well, he assumed cause your body language. We had just met. Why did he think he knew me so well that he could assume how I felt? This might be where a plot hole has been discovered, because you were exchanging messages over DMs after VidCon, which doesn't help your case in the slightest. George had essentially admitted to touching you. This is where many had said, well then, case closed, it's over for George, he's done. Because this was taken to the court of public opinion instead of the police, it was instantaneous, the result felt by George. He was removed from any collaboration with Mr. Beast, which tickled me. He lost sponsorships, and he was tarred and feathered as a S.A salter. At this same time, all of those involved with Katie Bugs, including Katie Bugs, had claimed to be quitting the internet for a while. Now, this could be attributed, if you are going to be charitable on this, as them removing themselves from any and all backlash of the more calm and the more extreme. There is going to be some of all, we can't deny that. The same cannot be said for George though, who ended up making a second statement on this situation. But while that was going on, many creators on Twitter started to look at the story from those screenshots and verbal statements from Katie Bugs via Twitch streams. And they pointed out there are a number of allegations that do not line up, even with George doing a rather bad initial response. There is still very much on the internet a listen and believe mentality when it comes to people coming forward with allegations. George's response was not on par with that of Wilbur, whose response was beyond dogshit. It was nowhere near the level of Prince Andrew either. It was just done quite badly, so a follow-up was required to clarify a few things. But the court of public opinion is merciless, and so even if he does clear it all up, he is not going to be believed. Example here, Amesy. On Discord, Katie Bugs had put out another statement at some point, and the part that's been highlighted by Carvos, I also don't want victims to feel they have to prove themselves to people to be believed. Now this is a rather fascinating statement, because I don't do listen and believe. If you've watched any of the crime videos I've done on this channel, I will never do listen and believe. That's not to say I don't believe you, I am completely indifferent. I've just noticed from your statement and from George's, none of it lines up with each other at all, which has led to, as more time has gone by, to Katie Bugs being accused of being a manipulator. This muddies the waters, because if there was any merit to any of this, you really shouldn't be doing it on the internet. If a crime was truly committed, it should go to the police. But then a freshly 18-year-old was at a 21 event. Things get very confusing from the offset. YouTuber and also Minecraft streamer and lookalike to Shane Dawson, Dream, put out a statement as well. And he takes the side of George, because he believes that from both statements, George is what was much closer to what actually happened. Quote, I think people expressing that someone did not consent to touching or cuddling because they did not verbally speak it is extremely dishonest. You can clearly consent without verbally specifically saying something, just as you can nod your head to say yes. Silence is not consent, but I was there, and although I did not know that any sexual touching had taken place, I can say for a matter of fact that their interactions were extremely positive throughout the night, and she had many opportunities of separation, even getting up and down off the couch and laying back down with him after the alleged thing took place, and her best friend leaving after what took place and her choosing to stay for hours. No one that was there had anything but positive experiences to share until many months later, and I was shocked to hear anything at all. I agree with George in saying that there is a group of content creators that have very large hatred for me and the Dream Team. I'm not exactly sure why, I have some ideas, but it's been going on for over a year now. Multiple of these content creators have spread total lies about me and take any opportunity they can to spread negative rumours. Katie is not one of them, to be clear, but she is friends with many of them, and this is even something we discussed in person. Obviously I can't say for certain that this has anything to do with what she said, but I can assume it had an impact on the lens she viewed George through. He also goes on to point out Katie was avoidant of clarifying anything to them or defending me, and was careful with how she worded things in text to me about it. It was speculated by everyone that was there that night that it was because she is good friends with the UK group and she didn't want to lose them as friends if she defended me or my character or said anything positive over text. His statement is 4 pages long. I will link the relevant tweet down below with the images of it. Nick Diorio had actually posted it, and of course it was posted to Reddit. His second response, his more recent one from 3 days ago, I argue is a better response, pointing out inconsistencies and addressing the tweets he put out apologising to Katie that have since been deleted. Many were worried that he was going to cuck out to her because of those tweets, mostly because many now do not believe Katie's statements. There are of course loads that do believe her, but there are enough now that do not believe her that the sway is quite substantial, the swing as it were. Enough so that on his own response video, his like to dislike is a lot more favourable in the like category. The damage though can be safely said to have been done now. What she considered s.assault is not what many would consider it at all, and because that accusation's been laid at the feet of George, the damage to his career is substantial and significant. Many believing that this is a way of, as Dream put it, attacking those near him, so there is argument there to the theory, or lends credence to it. In truth, I consider this an incredibly messy situation. This should have gone to the police if there was any merit to any of it, if any of it constituted a crime being committed, sure, that. I know that Ghosty the friend of Katie, had addressed the drinking issue and believed that Katie had misspoke. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I really don't, because these inconsistencies do not help the situation. When you have one statement, multiple statements from one person making accusations, and then contradictions from people meant to back you, it gets really muddy. We're going to be talking about Georgenotfound because some more stuff has come to light and it's getting quite strange, really. And I thought to myself, what we'll do, rather than do a catch-up, I'll just link that video down below, is simply dive into a relevant Twitter thread from Nick Diorio that actually conveys a point that needs to be raised earlier rather than later. It could be used as a later, like a Jerry Springer conclusion, but we don't need that here. The biggest problem with George, Katie, Shubble, Dream, and all the Minecraft people responding to allegations is transparency. No one is forthcoming with any information, everyone is anonymous. Important details get omitted or left out, and they all act like we should know lol. When people get the wrong idea about something you are choosing to remove your story, this is your fault. It's in like a bold font, I'm going to use the voice. None of these have shown the ability to just make a well thought out and thorough response that contains all relevant information with timestamps and screenshots. This operates under the assumption George is going to come out and directly confirm the breast touching. It's hilarious when Katie gets mad at people for not knowing the only relevant piece of information that was omitted in favor of cringe-powered dynamic BS and age discourse. The reality of the situation is that this info, if true, does change the discourse. It doesn't, however, shift the goalpost. It doesn't change how often she's lied, change the characterization of that night to fit her lies, and omitted valuable information. She's shown texts where she says she's chilling, but it was kinda weird. And she's on stream giving Vietnam flashback war story tales on stream. Both of these sources are Katie. One paints the night as fine at the time, but weird in post-talk land, and the other paints it as a brutal cold assault. You may have noticed if you've kept up with this, there's a detail that Nick has mentioned that's fresh. It's new, it's different. It does not fall in line with what we heard when the initial accusation was levied. Although in the initial accusation, George's name was never mentioned. This time the story has changed from tickling and cuddling to touching of chesticles. And as Nick has pointed out, if that were true, it changes the discourse. It doesn't move the goalpost, but it comes across as someone trying to move the goalpost. This, in truth, is dangerous area to walk. It's not a good area either, because you've already put a story out there, Katie. You have had 2 responses. You yourself have responded to one of those in text form. And now you've put out another stream and more clips have come to light because the story has changed. Of course, you are going to require some context here, folks. So I'm going to provide that context.
It is assault, okay? I'm not gonna apologize, say that it isn't assault, that I'm not a victim. The touching that he has admitted to many times, this touching that he admitted to not asking or getting my consent before he did, he felt up my tits on a couch with other people there. He stuck his hand up my shirt, under my bra, and felt up, fondled, whatever you want to say. He felt up my tits. Unwanted touch is literally in the definition of assault. It's assault, and I'm never gonna apologize.
This clip was tweeted out by August, who had said, Katie spoke out twice. She had 2 different opportunities, I assume it meant the number 2, to say this. First, it was held my waist. Then he touched under my shirt. Now he touched under my bra. This is vital information. Why has this story been changed so many times? I know her boobs are under her shirt, but her stomach is there as well, and the fact he went under her bra is an important detail and makes everything more severe. If she said this in the first place, I feel many people's opinions, including mine, would be different. Somebody had, in a reply, said the story isn't changing, more details are coming out. Actually, the story is changing, because to add those details does in fact change the story. Before, you could only infer. Now it is being asserted it is as severe as we were led to believe. George admitted to putting his hand up her shirt. He did not clarify where, and that is exactly what she is doing. Reply, details that change the severity of the story that should have been addressed in her first statement. Others also pointing out, what's under the shirt? Where does the bra go? Again, my comment of inferred and asserted is vitally important. You can imply something, but if you don't mention it in the first place, what have you done? You've shit-stirred, basically. This was retweeted by Carvos, who said Georgenotfound accuser Katie is back-changing her story again because apparently George now felt up her tit. Seems like a really big detail to leave out of your first 2 attempts to paint George out as a assaulter, but still glad to see she beat her sub count for the day. Yes, congratulations on that. Mine's usually 1, but only because I don't have the kind of pull you have. Certainly don't have the follower count you have either. Reply, yeah, they're going with the Adriana Lee method of changing key details of the encounter and finding out one of the screenshots was literally faked. She had 0 explanation for that. Reply, what was faked? There was a screenshot from a friend of George, so he talked to the person Katie said it was from, and that person denied ever posting it. As you go further down, you have the unmentioned friend, and we actually had this screenshot in our last video on this subject. This screenshot is derived from her statement, a rather lengthy statement that we went through in the last video. If faked, not a good look at all. Willie Mack had also retweeted that August tweet by saying, I've watched a lot of Katie allegations videos, and this is the first time I've heard her say boobs were groped. Tree of logic, she keeps changing the story, but as Omni points out further down in the replies, I thought both of them were alluding to this entire time without saying it. This is where Nick Diorio's statement about not really giving much information or proof really bites them both on the ass. Willie Mack also tweeted later, in her first video, I hope this is not a forgiving world because I hope he rots in this world unforgiven. Why can't I experience the world's kindness? In her new video, it was never about cancelling George, you're an annoying, all the question marks. Reply also, I can never do forgiveness, I've been called so many things like Amber Heard. Someone does make a good point further down, Troco. In the newer video, she said she misspoke when she said she was freshly 18, she meant freshly out of high school. However, I've seen the stream video, and I'm sure many have. She says freshly 18 quite a few times. Once or twice, perhaps an accident. As many times as you did, there needed to be a counter on it. There are many who have, upon hearing these accusations, these updated accusations, that are very much on George's side. Some of those equally believe he will just admit it anyway. Him admitting to the initial accusations is where that comes from, for those who don't know. Personally, I think it's rather weird to put out an accusation, to not give out specifics in the first accusation, which meant that it was very much open to interpretation, which allowed a baying mob to attack without anything to definitively go on. Upon a response being provided by George, you then put out a lengthier essay-style response, and in that, you contradicted yourself a little. That was where you should have then provided everything. Rather than infer or imply or assert, state. And if you have proof, make sure none of the screenshots are faked. But you didn't, and because how that can come across as being poorly executed, when you then update even further to provide more information which can be considered a form of dragging out the story, you put what was believed out as what you believe to be a fact. I say what you believe because we cannot prove it. None of us can. So we can consider what you say to be an assertion as well. I don't want to, but that is how it is because it is your experience, and without any evidence to confirm it, that's all it is. But this is where George will more than likely have to respond, won't he? He will have little to no choice because you've now stated that he has legitimately grabbed you where he should not have grabbed you without consent. But there are enough gaps in the story already concerning the alcohol, concerning your age, concerning the ambience and the atmosphere of the room, the people present. You have character witnesses that do not believe what you say to have happened at all. People who are close, of course, to George, so they have a bias. And there are many who believe you are only doing this to get back at Dream because you don't like Dream, which there is a big enough community of people who do not like Dream. If you have a large enough following, you are going to have a lot of people that don't like you regardless. All these additional factors tear at the story and they make it trickier to discern truth from fiction. Again, without, as Nick Diorio pointed out, without transparency, we don't have that. And it will be unlikely to be that considering the nature of the gathering where this took place. I say that because you claimed there were other people in that room when this happened. Where are their statements on this? So not long after this, there were still some who were using instances where they have personal experience to paint a picture. I firmly believed at this point because of the story from Caitlin changing so many times, Katie Bugs, changing so many times, that this was solely done as a way to poison the well so that George could not come back as a creator. Exhibit A is the following clip.
Ah.
It's James. I saw him on the camera.
Nice.
No.
You know, George was on the cam.
That camera. I was together over there.
George,
So you just gotta believe George because he said I saw him on the camera.
No, it's James.
George, I saw George on cam.
What George
Okay.
said lined
You
up.
can
I was
look me
right
up
behind
and remember
James.
it's
He
George.
killed him
George.
in the body.
George, you wouldn't-
This is the first thing he said in months.
George James.
The
first thing he said in months.
There's no way it's not. The amount of confidence.
George, you wouldn't lie to me, right?
Remember my words.
George, you
I
wouldn't
should have
lie.
not been so sure just to see who backed him up.
You wouldn't lie to us, right?
Now, no offence intended, but I do feel like the word misogynistic, or misogyny in general, has lost its original meaning in favour of I'm just offended. And because of the difference between us, biological, I'm going to use that word to tar and feather you. Thought terminating cliche 101. Because of much of the backlash Katie Bugs was receiving on Twitter, Katie Bugs decided to protect her Twitter account. Privating. Now, later on, we'll discuss a final statement from her. At this point, I firmly believed it was the wrong thing to do. The reason I believe that is because you, Katie Bugs, presented to the internet your evidence to cancel George. When people started to probe because your story changed, you made multiple videos reaffirming it, and then telling it different. And then when people pointed at those flaws, the fault lines got a bit wider, and you then decided to protect your echo chamber. Many people called George out, mostly female, because they listened and they believed. Tribalism, everyone. It's quite common in the online space, and streamers are no exception because they have a brand to protect. You'll know what they look like because they look identical. The same partial smile, looking to the side, coy, vapid human trash, if you didn't know already. Now, Katie Bugs did actually take down her accusations against Georgenotfound, but then she put the Final Thoughts stream back up, claiming it was taken down and cleared it. Now, this led to many believing, first of all, she was meant to be leaving the internet. She hadn't at this point, May, that is 2024, but it led to many to believe she was going to come up with some more accusations. For the sake of it, no. The query here, though, is why bother re-uploading it? Because at this point, there is nothing more to add to the conversation, and it doesn't serve as anything other than you chastising somebody for your claims, with no evidence to back it up. At the end of my second video, and the first one, I indicated there was a lack of vocals from other members of that party, where all these heinous acts are claimed to have taken place. Yeah, they're still not saying anything. And cleared in the brackets. Cleared what exactly? Now, on her Discord, on the 16th of May, she had actually announced that she was going to be taking a break. This was before she re-uploaded first or second allegation video by saying, I'm sorry, this sucks. I love you guys, please always remember that. I believe in y'all. You are the best community anyone could ask for, pure kindness. I'll be gone a while. Based on how many act on the internet, I can't imagine this is forever. Chronically Online is a sad affliction many suffer from. Katie will undoubtedly not be an exception to that. And I'll prove this because, courtesy of Lyrics, on June the 8th, she made another statement to her Discord giving farewell thoughts on what happened. I'm going to go through that in a moment. She also deactivated her Instagram and linked out a full statement. The full statement is what we're going to look at. What has become of the situation is a pile of confusion and miscommunications, one too far out of my reach. The idea that this happened at a 21 plus club, that I said I was that worded, even people pretending to know me. None of it's true, it was never said, so all I can do now is let it be. I still stand by what I said, and have been saying, that I was touched underneath my clothing, without consent and under the influence. I never said it was more than that, but stand by it wasn't any less. If he is the character claims, he can also confirm this detail. I understand I mixed up details on the lead up to this. I've acknowledged my misspoken moments and addressed them. Many people wonder how I can mess up those details due to being drunk, but still remember what happened to me being felt up. I don't really have an explanation, other than you tend to remember those things no matter how hard you try not to. I'm sorry. I really don't have better answers. As to people saying it was my fault for going there for being drunk, I can't say much. It's fine to find me at fault and even hate me because you can. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. What I experienced was true, and so were my emotions recalling it. I was clumsy, with real fear, real pain, real tears, and there's no way to prove it. I thought I was doing something to help, to bring awareness to the complexity of SA and its different situations. to reach someone sheepish like myself, but I fear I failed. I really am sorry at the review now painted on it all, more so because I wanted to be someone people could find safety in and confidence in. I always have tried to be. I apologise. But now, seemingly everything I do has a meticulous reason behind it. One really stemmed from premeditated opinions. I can't change minds set long before I spoke. I left the internet to come to terms with a lot. I realised I never took the time to. Somehow, this situation has made it all feel less real, and still it never rids my mind. I know it may not seem like it, but I never had a secret objective or need for the attention that came. I'm sure deep down I felt wrong, like something was taken from me, but nothing is as simple as it feels. In truth, I saw someone I looked up to speak out about something hard and figured I could do the same. Maybe I could become that person for someone else, or help someone realise what happened to them, that it wasn't their fault. I can't help but feel like a failure. I tried so hard to be this beacon when I'm still struggling myself. I hope everyone who has gone through SA, no matter the severity, at the end in brackets. I also believe that if you have the courage, take it up in court every time. Unfortunately, in my life, I've seen those close to me failed by the system, resulting in my negative outlook and my idea of injustice. No matter, you should not take my opinion and my way of going about things into your path of justice. Goodbye. When Lyrics tweeted this out, many people replied by simply stating that, this is someone just using the angsty teen vulnerable girl argument. Whether there's truth to that or not, I'll let you decide. Now, you might not be wondering, where's George in this? Because we've only focused on Katie Bugs. Well, we had to skip ahead a few months, because George had, up until early November, done absolutely nothing. To the point it was nigh on impossible to actually find anything he was doing in the online space. So with a near 10-month gap from when this began, Georgenotfound was very much living up to his name. Now, George as a YouTuber has gone years earning millions of views for every single upload. So when George does make a return, it is either going to be a resounding failure, comparative failure anyway, or a resounding success. There is very little in the way of middle ground, because what has happened has guaranteed his name will carry a level of negativity from more casual viewers and people who will not have kept up with what has happened. Society as a whole thrives on negativity. That includes the news. It's why you rarely hear of things positive in the news. For example, the cretin responsible for the death of a squirrel and a raccoon being held to a certain standard and sent to prison because I firmly believe in parity of esteem. Now, this is good news. If it ever happened. It won't happen. Why? Third World Republic. And because it wouldn't be reported on either, we'd never know. Because it's positive news. Positive news. A child found a penny. So rare it was worth millions. It might get reported on. More than likely, the only thing it would be reported on is the child got mugged by a homeless guy. So after 10 months, Georgenotfound returned to the internet. Arguably, successfully. But it can also be argued, not so much. Successfully because he came back. Not so successfully because for somebody who got tens of millions of views for every single upload, this time not so much. Couple 100,000 at time of recording. But George does use his mother. There's something. We should play a clip of that.
My job is to teach my mom everything that she needs to know in order to beat the game. So she can finally see that all those hours I spent playing were not a waste. And that Minecraft was the best $20 that she ever spent on me.
Hold space, we're gonna drown. It's coming!
Yeah.
Look left!
Where,
Look left! It's behind the tree probably.
What do I do?
Left! You're gonna go in the water!
Ah!
Run away! Run! Run! No!
Oh my god!
Now, I took the liberty of perusing the comments. There were some that, of course, dunked on him for having such a large channel and low viewership, but many were welcoming him back with open arms, and for getting his mother on the channel. My view is, he weathered a storm that changed far too many times. I don't know if he can rebuild enough to ever be as successful as he once was, or whether he can in the market of Minecraft when there are a number of creators who have now been confirmed to have crossed that line. Hell, that joke was going, well, years before when Vicstar was first on YouTube playing Minecraft. Not because he was accused of it, it was used as a jest between friends. But as far as this year has gone, Georgenotfound has come back. Now, there is one last detail with Katie Bugs we need to address. Her YouTube channel. She links to her side of the story in the description, and the about says, hoping to help people make them feel something, even if it's just less alone. Forever capturing my own memories and the beauty of shared experience.